Okay, tribal members, here we are for episode 6. We are here with Jennifer Misegan. Hello, Jennifer. Welcome to the studio.
Hi, Mitch. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so as always, let me lay out the ground rules. Again, with this interview, you and I know each other from beforehand, so we got to assume that there are others out there that are viewing that do not know you, so we got to cover all the basics. No talking bad about other people, the only ground rule. And you can use up to 60 minutes. So let's jump into it. Jennifer, tell us a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, stuff like that.
Okay, sure. Bonjour, everyone. I'm Jennifer Misegan. My maiden name is Shosa. My dad was Mike Shosa. He was a grant writer for the tribe for many years. My mom was Carol LeClaire. She is from Berga, and I have a LeClaire family still that lives here. My grandfather was a commercial fisherman. I learned a lot of things from him, and my grandma, my dad's mom, also taught me a lot of things about, who you should be and where you come from and how you behave. I've been married to Dwayne for 28 years this year. We have a son, Jake, a daughter, Dina. Jake's a police officer. Dina is a registered nurse. I've worked for the tribe the majority of my life. I actually just was recognized this summer for having 30 years of service for the tribe.
Congratulations.
Thank you, which is probably impossible because I would have started when I was 5 then, right? I've had the pleasure of being on the tribal council a few times, and so, I'm bringing some experience with me.
Let's go back to right in the beginning. When in your life did you decide that you were going to go for tribal council?
Well, I actually grew up kind of involved in tribal politics. My dad was, like I said, he worked as a grant writer and an economic developer. And so he was involved in the tribe, and he had been on the tribal council in the past, and my grandfather had been on the council in the past, and so it was just something that I kind of grew into. I was involved in the enrollment board after the takeover and the process and the development of the constitutional amendment for our membership. And so that's when I decided that I really wanted to get involved and to make a difference. And I had some experiences from that process that I was able to bring with me. So
very good. All right, so let's talk about let's go back to that first term on tribal council. What was it? What was that first term like?
It was very challenging because the membership had just gotten changed in 2002, and I ran for election in 2002 and was elected, and so I began serving in 2003. That was my first term. There was still a lot of splits, in the tribe at that time, and so it was challenging to be able to bring people together, and I think that council actually was probably something that changed my life.
Really?
Yeah, and I met some people then that, weren't necessarily on our side, and so I've made lifelong friends with some of them, and I think that we've been able to do things together that have helped the tribe.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your last term in council then. What was that last term like?
The last term was actually a lot of work. And so I was the vice president, and I took on a lot of responsibilities. And Chris and I actually worked as a pretty good team, and we did a lot of things. We accomplished a lot of things, and it was sometimes you don't see the forest through the trees. And I was focusing a lot on what needs to get done, how it needs to get done, and not necessarily on my relationship with the community as well as I should have been. I didn't take the time out and go visit with the elders, and I didn't take time and go to powwows, things like that, where I like to do and be involved with the people. There just wasn't time for that because I was so involved in the work that needed to get done.
It's very understandable. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you had time to reflect then with this break.
Oh, did I ever? I did, and it was a good, everything happens for a reason, I believe. Yeah. And this was a very good year, and I've been able to step back and kind of see things from a different perspective, and I hope to be able to use that to make some good changes, things that you don't see when you're sitting there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Yeah. I think that's something that everybody can understand. You you don't see some things sometimes and you're right there.
Yeah, for instance, communication. I thought, well, the meetings are broadcast, everybody sees them, but everybody doesn't take the time to watch a 4-hour meeting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that we need to do something better about communicating, and whether it be, like these types of tools, I think are very good. And that's the way for people to get the word out. For instance, the budget was just approved for 2020, to the new fiscal year, and there's a lot of changes that were made, and nobody really knows what those changes are, and it would be awesome to have like a list of the changes, and these are the programs that were affected, and we need to have better focused communication.
I think that these filmed interviews are a good start to something.
They're great.
With that being said, I got a little bit of cushion here, but we're going to reset these timers right now just so I don't mess it up. Were you always sure that you were going to be running again, or did that take thoughts and a decision?
No, I wasn't always sure, but I feel as though the tribe invested a lot in me, and I need to give back to the community, and this is my attempt to do that. And so sometimes I think that I'm a problem solver, and I think that we have some problems that need some solutions in solving and compromising, and I want to be able to work to do those things, and that's really the only platform to do it.
Okay, I like that answer. You have a calling. Would you call it that?
Well, I hope the voters will see that and think that, but I've stayed involved in the tribe throughout the year. Obviously, I work there. But, it's definitely a passion that I've had, the tribe, and this probably sounds cheesy, but I have a love for the tribe, and I've had that, really it's been instilled in me my whole life, so. I think
that qualifies as a calling. I mean, that's what we like to hear. I think that's what I like to hear. I'm like, in this position for me, I want every single one of you candidates to win, because you guys are all coming from that spot. There's nobody here that doesn't want to help the tribe. So, I mean, it's good.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm.
Let's go to these questions, and I'm just going to I'll start from the bottom of the list and work my way up. Some of this might end up having you repeat some things, but it'd just be another chance to give another angle on it. So let's just start right at the bottom here with Lisa Madash. She says, why is it... Okay, I'll have to filter through some of this stuff to get to the questions sometimes. So I guess the question basically is, is there any plans for taking care of our elders? There's treatment centers, there's the work for the halfway house, casinos, businesses, marijuana ventures, but what about elders, at that time of their life when they need care? You're jumping in as the candidate where you are right now, but do you have any comment on that?
Well, I think that we have a huge population that is getting older here, and we can definitely see it in the trends and the enrollment figures that are coming up. And I think that there's definitely a need for that. It would be great to be able to have assisted living. I know that we have Superior View, which is, my aunt recently moved in there the last few years, and she absolutely loves it. Mm-hmm. And I know that there are some people in there that need more care. And so it would be great to be able to have some sort of assisted living, and we just have to figure out how we're going to pay for that. You know what I mean? And I also think that I spoke to one of our tribal nurses this summer, and she wanted to, she thought that a great program would be to have some sort of, we have like CHRs who visit our elders, but to have an actual registered nurse who goes in and does some sort of home health care. I don't know if we're able to do that through the clinic, but I would sure like to try that. Mm-hmm. I think that obviously there's money in home health care, or other people wouldn't be doing it.
Yes.
So it would definitely be something that I think we need to explore, because I think that our tribal elders are much more comfortable with our own tribal nurses. Even if it's just the ones that they've known for a long time that have worked with the tribe. And I think that would definitely be something that we should explore. I think that they deserve that. Yeah.
So with your past experience, has there ever been a conversation about that type of thing, or is that something that nobody's really brought up too much yet?
I want to say that it's been in maybe a thought, but I don't believe that anybody's ever done the actual work to see if that it would be feasible. I mean, it would be awesome to do a feasibility study and to be able to see where the funds are. And, I definitely would support something like that and to work toward to seeing something accomplished.
Yes. Okay, so let's go to this one. We'll move up the list here from Zena Pitsley. What would each candidate do for our tribe as a whole that the previous council has not?
Wow. I mean, I think that the council sometimes gets a bad rap too. And I think that we don't think about all the work that they do, because they do a lot of things and they make a lot of hard decisions. But I think that, communication is definitely needed. And like I said, I know from firsthand that you get caught up in doing, you know what I mean? And you're not out there making sure that the membership knows what's going on. I think that that's important. I think that we need to prioritize more than what we do. I think that we need to, at the beginning of the year, sit down and say, these are the 3 things that we're going to work on for this year, and we need to do it together. And there shouldn't be a meeting before the meeting where you come up with these things. I think that the whole council needs to sit down and say, this year we really need to focus on education, and we need to focus on financial stability, and you know what I mean? And then that's what we work toward throughout the year to accomplish. I think that that's definitely something that would be different. And I think that also, council members should be given maybe some more responsibility. For instance, the National Congress of American Indians. I don't know if anybody has attended, but there's a lot of good information there. And so it would be great to be able to say, who's going to volunteer to be the representative to NCAI? Who's going to go to the National Indian Gaming Association and get the information? Because, lots of times people think, they're just going on travel. But if you're going there for the right reason and you're accountable for what for going and bringing that information back, then, it'll make all the difference. I mean, for instance, we went to, Doreen and Susan and I attended a Native American Finance Officer Association meeting, a conference, and we went specifically to get information about Tribal General Welfare Exclusion Act. And with that information, we were able to make some huge changes. And now the General Welfare Support Program, which used to be the Christmas check, isn't taxable. And
really? Okay.
So, people go off to these things and they really do bring the information back, and you have to do the work to, for a program or to make changes with it. So I think that would be something else that we should look at doing.
So kind of getting their feet on the ground a little bit more, get them working. And that's really cool. I feel like we could do a show just about that, what you just mentioned. And I'm getting all kinds of show ideas from these interviews. Okay, so let's move up the list here then. Let's go to Deborah Parrish's questions. She has a couple of them here. Do you support the Tribal Council also taking a cut in pay to help reduce the $2.5 million cutbacks needed?
I think that the council deserves to be paid something. But I think that sometimes meetings are short, or, everybody doesn't get to stay there for the whole time. And I think that, I definitely support an honest day's work for an honest day's pay. And maybe we need to look at paying them differently. Maybe it should be an hourly. You know what I mean? So you can't just go for an hour and get the whole stipend.
I gotcha.
But I do support fair and consistent budgeting throughout the tribe.
Very good. We're going to reset the timers again. Okay, so cameras are back up and running, and we are going to are you okay with just hip firing these questions quick?
Sure, yeah.
It's kind of fun, hey?
It is.
All right, let's go on to the next one. Deborah Parrish, do you support changing the Constitution to allow voting of all tribal members regardless of where they live?
I definitely support asking the voters what they want to do, because ultimately it's their decision. And I think that we need to put the question as a referendum question on the ballot, so that then we can know where to go with what is decided. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if they say, yes, we think that we need to include more people in the voting, then there needs to be a constitutional convention, and people need to sit down and hear different ideas and make compromises. And if they say no, then that's what it is for a while. Do you know what I mean? So I support going to them and asking the questions and then doing the work that they want to see happen. I think that we need to do that.
Okay. Let's go to Well, similar question. Do you support tribal members who live in Harvey District or Ontonagon having a seat on the tribal council?
I think that we need to take a look at, our council, our constitution says that there can be 12 seats and that they would be split up. You could actually make a change to those districts based on whatever you wanted it to be, right?
Yep.
On land or population. I think that we need to take a look at that. But if you do it on population, there really aren't that many people in Harvey. Currently they vote in the Lance district, and the Lance district is fairly small now. So, that's a good place for them.
Okay, very good. Another one from Deborah Parrish. Well, first of all, before I get to that question, I'll just go to this question. Other than the cannabis operation, what other businesses do you see viable for the tribe's investment?
Well, I was involved in the casino projects, and I think that we really need to be focusing on those, and we need to make sure that they're running like a well-oiled machine. And with it just opening, I don't know that we should be looking right now to do something different other than focusing on those operations. But I do think that eventually we need a hotel. I mean, we would have loved to have had the funds to build a hotel at the time.
Yeah.
But it wasn't there. But I think that's the next thing that we need to do.
Okay. And then just kind of piggybacking from that, what is your opinion on the tribe's cannabis adventures?
Actually, I support the, doing something, and I think that there's a viable market out there, but I support doing it the right way, and I think that we need to have more information on, like what are the projected financial statements? What is it going to make after taxes? Because from what I've read, the federal taxes are very high, and we would obviously have to pay them. So I'd like to see more actual facts and figures on the cannabis operation. I'm certainly not opposed to it. I know that medical marijuana has made differences in people's lives, and I understand that and I get that. So, but I just want to make sure that it's done correctly, and I want to make sure that it's done correctly before we actually put shovels in the ground. That worries me.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, I mean it's a brand new thing that everybody's trying to figure out. So it's a risk.
Right.
It could be risky.
It is a risk, and I worry about risking the Elders Trust Fund for sure. Mm-hmm. And I know that many of them are afraid as well. They count on that money that they get monthly, even though it doesn't come specifically from there. There may be a time where it has to, and it wouldn't be there. So that is a worry.
And that's why nobody envies you guys in leadership, because you guys got to make the hard choices and do all that stuff. So we'll continue with the questions.
I just have one thing to add to that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So yep, they do have to make the hard choices, but those choices and those decisions should be based on facts and figures.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we base those decisions when we're sitting there on personal opinions or rumor that we've heard, and I think that we don't always get both sides of the story as much as we should, and we definitely need to see more proof or more information on those kinds of decisions specifically before they're made.
You're all about making very informed decisions.
I am. I
Knowing
definitely am.
The whole game.
Yep. And being transparent about the information that you get, and transparent about the reason that you voted the way you did.
Okay, I like it. Here's kind of just a nice, simple little question here. Michael Dowd asks, what, in your opinion, would be the perfect tribal council member?
Well, I definitely think that it's important to be informed on many different levels. You know what I mean? So it would take, to me, the perfect council is somebody who's working hard, researching, reading, knows our policies, our laws, our constitution, is also compassionate and caring toward the needs of the membership, somebody that's knows our members, and somebody who doesn't think that they're above the members. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, we're all just people. You know what I mean? And I also think that we need somebody who is willing to stand up and fight for what's right and fight for the tribe, and somebody who understands sovereignty and what that means to all of us.
Well, let's go over to that then, actually. Can you talk a little bit about how important sovereignty is?
You know, to me, in enrollment, obviously, sovereignty is important because it helps us to define who our members are. Here, you know, we have our own land, so I think we take our sovereignty for granted. I mean, sovereignty is definitely deciding who, what, when, where, and how we are and how we interact with other sovereigns. I think that we need to exercise our sovereignty more. I think that, for instance, I sit here and I watch the cars go by on this highway, and I think all the time about the 45-mile-an-hour speed limit. I mean, this highway runs through our reservation. It's in, the council has said the speed limit here is 45. I mean, that's an exercise of our sovereignty. But yet we're still having to fight the state of Michigan because they say, well, that's our highway. No, we'd make that decision, and we decided that it's safe for people to go 45 miles an hour. And, those little fights, to me, are actually, much bigger, because when you're exercising your sovereignty and people understand how important those things are to you, then it really helps Indian country in general.
Yes. So, it's not just about a speed limit.
No, it's about the fact that, we have that right. That is our highway running through our reservation that our members are on a daily basis.
Yes. So, I mean, I've been watching this road since I was 15 here.
Right.
So let's go to more of these. Actually, let's just go to some of the bigger topics here. Kind of going off enrollment, what is your opinion on blood quantum?
Blood quantum, to me, so I see how we've developed our blood quantum through the years, through the motions that have been made, and where we are with our blood quantum. I think that there's going to come a time where we're going to need to do something, and I think that it's going to be necessary to lower it. To what and how and who, you know what I mean? That's another thing that needs to be defined in a constitutional convention. And I keep saying that because I had such a good experience in the one that I was in. The takeover had just happened. We took 50 people approximately from all different aspects of that argument. And we sat together and listened to each other, and then compromises were made that were best for the tribe. And I think that that's super important when you're making those kinds of decisions. But right now we're continuing to grow, and I can see that obviously because of my position, but it's going to stop, and we're going to be on a decline, and we'll have to address that sooner than later.
Okay. I'm going to reset the cameras again. The cameras are up and running, and I think we'll just go back to, I have a few questions that popped up in my head from just some of the other stuff you covered. Let's go to this one here from Carrie Ashbrook and this is one of the popular questions I've been asking candidates. With the growing epidemic on drug abuse, increased tribal children in foster care, what has the tribe done to battle or should be doing to decrease this ongoing problem?
I think that it's really, we have to take a very, a multitude prong approach. You know what I mean? Obviously, they're working on how to help the addict with, we have the New Day Treatment Center, we have this halfway house coming. I think that we need to be providing up-to-date, state-of-the-art training for those people who have contact with the addict on a daily, very intimate basis. So we need to be doing everything we can to get them the help when they're in those places. I also think that we need to be doing more for prevention. I don't know that we do very much. You know what I mean? I don't have kids in school, so maybe there's more that I just don't see it, but I feel like we're not doing enough in prevention. And I think about like the summer youth kids. We have them. They're a captive audience. We need to be providing that information to them as much as we possibly can. And then I also think that we need to be doing more kind of to bump up our laws. Our controlled substance laws are very minimal. And for instance, if you are stopped on a traffic stop and you have all the components to make methamphetamine, right now, currently, it isn't illegal in our code.
It isn't?
It isn't, no.
Okay.
And last year, in the fall, I actually proposed some changes to our controlled substance, but obviously, since I didn't get reelected, those kind of fell by the wayside. But, I definitely believe that we need to be doing more there. I mean, it needs to be. Yeah. It needs to be against the law to have the components to make methamphetamine in your possession. So that'd be something else you'd
pick up again.
Right.
For sure.
Right. And those things need to be done in our code. And so our code needs to be revised. And I think that we need to be providing different types of penalties to people who are doing drugs. Because you know what? a lot of drug addicts are certainly not bad people. They're just good people doing bad things.
Yes.
And I think that we need to focus on that. We need to focus on prevention, and we need to do something with our laws. And also, I think that, a lot of people are kind of down on drug court, but I think that there are some good things that have come out of drug court. In fact, there are several people who are now clean and sober because of drug court. And I also think of, I had my father was an alcoholic, and so he would get in trouble with the law, and he would sometimes, go to jail, or he'd be court ordered to treatment, or he'd be on PBTs. And to me, it was always a relief because I knew he was safe, I knew where he was, I knew that he wasn't drinking. And so even if for a short time someone's in drug court and they're, ordered to PBTs, or they're doing drug tests monthly and they're testing clean, I mean, that's a relief to them, and it actually expands their life. So,
yeah. They're quote unquote in trouble, but they're getting help.
Right. And I'm in favor of anything that can help them and their families. I mean, obviously we have this epidemic here, this drug problem, and we have, more kids in foster care than we've ever had before. I'm also a member of the ICWA committee, and so I've seen firsthand. And it's heartbreaking to see that these families are being torn apart because of drugs. And we need to do everything that we can to keep them intact.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think that the only other sort of category I want to cover here is culture. So first, let's just go with kind of your history and culture. How has culture played its role in your life?
So my grandmother was raised in the orphanage, and so she wasn't really allowed to, to even know much of her culture. And so my family hasn't been, we didn't grow up going to powwows or sweats, but my grandfather was a commercial fisherman, and because of that, I know a lot of things about home territory and treaty rights. And we're also gatherers, you know what I mean? We'll definitely do that. I've learned a lot about our culture, probably since, I was talking about the lifelong friends that I made from the council in 2003. And I've learned more about our culture from Bev Lucier and Doreen and Peggy Dunn than I had all the years before. And the more I know about it, the more I want to know about it. And so that's been a blessing. But
that's a common story too. That's the best part about it. Everybody, you get hooked.
You do. And I wish that I made it more of a priority. But I just get stuck in this working, and you know what I mean? And I really need to do more of that. And Dwayne and I were talking about things we want to do when we retire, and that is something I'd like to do when I retire eventually, is to learn the language, because I love it. It's actually beautiful. You know what I mean? Just to listen to somebody speaking the language. And I actually get kind of jealous, like, well, I wish that was me.
It's hard to hear that. I feel like there should be a phrase for that, for people that can't speak their language and they hear it and then they get that little jealousy. So where was I just going to go with that then? So you have taken in a bit of culture in your life. Do you feel like you do carry that though with you when you are speaking with the people, when you're out there doing your thing? Like, do you carry that with you? Do you feel it, that connection?
Definitely. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've had the honor of bringing the tribe's issues to the halls of Congress, and I feel that, you can feel the weight of the ancestors on your shoulders, that you've been given this opportunity. Don't blow it. I mean, you have a job to do here, so.
Very good. Yeah. See, to me, that's what culture is all about, at least recognizing that a lot of people were there before you. Okay, so we are going to take this time now to let you go to any topic or issue that you would like to go to, something I might not have covered.
The only thing I wanted to mention was the tobacco company, and I think that people are disappointed maybe in the results of what's going on for the General Welfare Support Program, with it being a little bit less than last year. And, unfortunately or fortunately, people are smoking less than they, did in previous years. That's really the issue. The tobacco company, though, is successful. I mean, we've had these machines for a while. It took a long time to get a federal license. We're working hard on continuing production there. Without the tobacco company, there really is no Christmas check. So we contributed $1.3 million to that fund this year. Last year we contributed about $950,000. So, we're still working hard. The tobacco company just makes the product. They don't sell it. You know what I mean? It goes to a SEMA, and then a SEMA sells it to the Pines, the Res Stop, the casinos, and that's really where that money that is being distributed comes from. So we need to be working harder on our marketing efforts. But, the tobacco company is something that we can all be proud of.
Absolutely. And that's something that seems to fall back a little bit with the casino talk and the marijuana talk and stuff, but that's something that's definitely out there and something for the tribe to center around. So now it's that opportunity. You can talk to the voters.
This is probably the question that I was most nervous about, actually. It's hard for me to, to encourage people to vote for me, but, that's what I think that would be beneficial for the tribe. I think that I work hard for the community, and I'm definitely not afraid to speak up when I think that something's being done wrong. I'm very passionate about our tribe and about our membership, and I'll always work hard and fight for what's right. So, I would appreciate support at the primary, and hopefully we'll go on to the general election and see what we can do there. But, I'm a glitch to you for this opportunity. I think that it's really cool, and I'm just glad to be able to do this.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Mitch.